Thanks to those joining me live, to those that be joining me on Archive D Style here. If you're listening to Archive, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Take a moment, thumbs up the video. Remember, hit that notification button. That way you're notified every time D Style comes on live here on YouTube.com. And I'm being joined by Joe Habib. What's up, Habib?
What's going on?
All right, I have my video playing. Let me pause that. That way it's not playing in my ear. There we go. I was hearing my own voice. So, man, you heard the news today. Ironically, we were just talking on your channel, right, a couple days ago about this.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know, I said I heard the grapevine, new ownership wants out. They don't want HBO anymore. You know, I'm sorry, they don't want boxing anymore. It's not making profit for them. It's not bringing viewership for them. They want to compete with Netflix now. New ownership came in. They cleaned. I mean, I don't know if they cleaned house, but they definitely kicked boxing out of the house. You know what I mean? I think boxing was living for free in the household. They just, kicked them out. Just before I give my thoughts, what are your thoughts? What's the first thing that came to mind? And while I think you have more of a positive perspective, give me some negatives too. What is the bad thing about this and good thing about this?
Well, I guess if you're looking at it from a competition standpoint, the more competition, the better the fights can be sometimes. But, they were constantly really getting outperformed by other networks. Other networks were outshining them in terms of putting on better matchups. They lost marquee fighters like Mike Tyson. They lost Floyd Mayweather. They had all of the Al Heyman fighters at one point, and then they lost them. So, the writing was on the wall. But not only that, I've just never, ever enjoyed watching a fight on HBO. As good as the fight was, the announcers always seem to ruin it. I never liked the commentary on HBO. I was never a fan of Larry Merchant. I was never a fan of Jim Lampley. I'm not a huge fan of Max Kellerman. I can't stand how Harold Letterman scores fights. I just was never a fan of how they did boxing. And then it seemed as though they were trying to be the promoters of the sport. Instead of just broadcasting fights like Showtime does, they try to pick and choose. Obviously they have the right to broadcast a fight or not if they want, but they got too involved in negotiations. Like they would turn down a lot of fights, like Andre Ward, for instance. A lot of his opponents weren't approved. Like they tried to play an active role in being a promoter instead of just being a broadcaster. And Bob Arum criticized them for the same thing. Bob Arum had issues with them and trying to put fights on. Whereas it's the other networks are basically they look at the matchup itself and the fighters involved in the matchup, and they look at, well, do people want to see this? Not does HBO want to broadcast it. Basically, is if it's a good enough fight to be put on television, then you put it on television. And then they changed up their demographic. They tended to promote foreign fighters, particularly Eastern European fighters, more than American fighters. And I think that hurt them a little bit too, because a lot of people, with all due respect, they can't really all relate to some of these fighters that don't speak English. It's hard for a lot of fans to get behind them. Now, Canelo Alvarez obviously was the exception to the rule, but I just think they went in the wrong direction. They had a marquee.
Well, I think Hispanic fighters are exceptions to the rule because there's a large Hispanic population in the U.S., right? I think
exactly. That's 100% correct. And this is no knock on Eastern European fighters. I mean, Gennady Golovkin ended up becoming popular, not to the extent of Canelo, but he did grow in popularity. And he did do some good things in his career, obviously, and has been in some decent fights, particularly these last two at Canelo. They were very lucrative fights for him, which is great. But like I said, I was surprised it happened so fast. Like you said, you talked about it, before, even before on Sunday's show, you talked about it before that. And I agreed with you, but I just didn't think that it would happen so fast. I thought this would happen maybe a year or two down the road. But I always preferred watching the fights on Showtime more so than HBO. So I have to be honest, I'm not going to miss HBO not being part of boxing anymore. I'm really not, because I've seen the product, the broadcasts. I've seen year by year by year, the quality of fights were not as good. The budgets were getting smaller, and the constant pushing of certain agendas on that network, they became more fans of fighters as opposed to being objective broadcasters. I just never liked them. I mean, good riddance to them. I'm just happy that they're gonna be gone. I really am. I'm not gonna miss them.
Whatever they were gonna do in boxing, they've done it pretty much, as far as anything great they've ever done.
Well, there've been some very good fights on HBO, without question. But again, I just I've always been critical of that broadcast team, because I'll be watching a fight, and these guys will just be talking about the story of the fight instead of just talk about what's going on. I don't want to hear about a story of a fight. I don't want to hear about these narratives. I don't want to be told what's happening when and having Jim Lampley telling me punches are landing when they're not landing, and Jim Lampley saying, "Oh, you have to score that round for this guy." I don't like how they try to create a story based on what they want to happen, not on what's going on, but what they want to happen. And the problem is, I think they're bad for boxing. I think someone who doesn't really watch the sport, someone who's flipping through their channels on a Saturday night, stumbles across HBO boxing, and they start watching boxing for the first time, or they're watching boxing and not really knowing the ins and outs of the sport, basically a casual fan. They listen to these guys, and they're being influenced. Like Harold Letterman scoring rounds for a fighter just because he landed a punch at the end of the round. Meanwhile, basically discounting what went on the prior 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So I just think they've been bad for the sport, and I've just never liked them.
I agree in that sense, because let me tell you, while boxing is always going to be, no matter what we do, there's always going to be controversy after a fight, especially close fights, right? We're always going to have controversy. We're always going to have people saying that guy got robbed or whatever the case is. But I don't know what it was. Whenever there was a close fight on HBO, I just saw it. Like, you could tell on social media that people were really influenced by the HBO narrative. And it's funny how you say the story of the fight, because it got to a point where Max Kellerman was even saying it out loud. They weren't even hiding it anymore. It was just like, oh, this guy's winning the story, and this guy's winning the fight. And they're trying to do an HBO documentary in the middle of a fight. Like just let the fight play out. Stop trying to, give us zingers and these big lines that are going to stand out. These things should be organic. When a commentator is just calling the fight, it should be organic, right? Whenever someone said, down goes Frazier, right? That was just because that's what happened. They were just calling the fight, and that's it. So this, no doubt, HBO had a lot of issues, but look, nobody predicted that HBO on September 27th, it was going to be announced by, you know what I mean? Like, no one predicted the date, but everybody saw, like, everyone knew it was going to happen. Like, everyone knew that HBO was diagnosed with a disease, and at some point it was going to die. We just didn't know when, right? I think everybody saw that. I think, like, the underlying reasons why it it's gone largely is because it's lost a lot of popularity. And funny enough, when you talk about the European fighter, people will be quick to label anyone saying that they should have pushed American fighters more. They'll be quick to do that. But B, let me ask you, who does Sky TV push?
Who does Sky TV
in the UK? Who do the UK fighters, right?
Yeah, UK fighters up, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's their country. Yeah. Of course, you're supposed to pass that. Over there in Germany, they were pushing Felix Sturm and their adopted dudes in the Klitschko's, and that's just what they do. In the Philippines, they would push Manny Pacquiao a lot, and that's what you're supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying we should ignore European fighters altogether, but you have to promote your homegrown fighters. And they did kind of get away from that. And I'm surprised they kept trying this, even though, do you remember when Kessler fought Joe Calzaghe?
Correct. Yes, I do.
They were really promoting these two guys. And I'm not saying they didn't. I was a big fan of Calzaghe. I'm not saying they didn't deserve to be pushed, but the writing was on the wall that these guys were not, going to bring in the type of ratings at the time. It was I think it was 1.5 million. Which today would be phenomenal, right? But at that time, those were not good ratings, So they had tried to push the European fighter, like with Kessler, for example. It didn't work. So I'm not sure why they kept trying to kind of get away from the American fighters and push the European fighters. It was kind of odd to me. I don't know if they thought it would just cost less. I don't want to get in their heads. I'm not exactly sure how all that occurred, but he could have done both, and I think they got away from that. But one thing I want to make clear is, and what I want to ask you, I think it's kind of obvious, but getting away from our personal opinion about the broadcast, what HBO did in the past, with AT&T purchasing Time Warner, which is the parent company of HBO, it's clear that that's the reason it was cut off today, right? What do you believe they saw? Okay, whether it was in the books, the money spent, the money it was making. What do you think they saw that made them say? Because whoever cut this off was not someone who is a big avid boxing fan, and because if there was that, they would have replaced Jim Lampley. They would have gotten a whole new crew, and they would have hired somebody else to run HBO Sports. But that's not what they're doing. They're just cutting boxing off. Why do you think the new ownership made this decision? What do you think they looked at, and what is your opinion about that?
Well, people who sit at the top of an organization, their main objective is to look at numbers. That's what they look at: numbers, trends, statistics,
metrics. Yeah,
and it's quite obvious from what we've been told and what's been reported is the numbers just haven't been well. Like the fights at HBO that were shown on HBO, and the stupidest thing they always did was they would co-broadcast. They would broadcast put a fight on when Showtime had a fight on all the time, and they would get outperformed every time. So the numbers were down, and I'm sure the people that AT&T people looked at that. They looked at the ratings, they looked at the numbers, they looked at how much HBO was spending, and they looked at were they getting the bang for their buck.
Right. Joe, you there? Joe.
Less people. Hold on.
Joe. Okay, we can hear you now. You cut off about a minute ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. So they were basically looking at the numbers, and then HBO making the stupid thing of putting on fights at the same time that Showtime was putting on fights. That hurt them, and they were too stubborn to change that. And year after year, the budget was getting smaller because less and less people were watching the fights. So the budget was shrinking because of that. So they saw a trend. They saw a trend where the fights just weren't doing as well. HBO was putting on less and less fights because it seemed as though, outside of Canelo and outside of Golovkin, who else did they have? They lost all of their big name fighters, and consistently they were losing their big name fighters. They lost Lomachenko, they lost Crawford, and if Ward was still fighting, he'd probably be fighting on ESPN right now too. So they lost a lot of fighters, and they didn't have any big time players in any of the real popular division, like what welterweight and junior middleweight, the two hottest divisions in boxing right now. Featherweight, what fighters did they have in those weight classes that were on HBO? Right. So the writing was on the wall. I think the people at AT&T saw that there was a trend showing how HBO, as time went on, less and less people were watching the fights, and because of that, it affected their budget, and they were putting on less and less fights. So I guess they saw, basically at the end.
So basically, it wasn't worth fighting for at this point, right?
Its path, they might as well just pull the cord right now and stop the bleeding right now. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of all that. I mean, the truth is, they just came in and they probably looked at it and said, you know what? Well, what are we even doing with this, right? Because yes, the budget's been going down over the years. It just isn't bringing in as much money. Now, the budget has been decreasing even when they had all these fighters, by the way. Okay, even when they were throwing money around, it's even though HBO would cut the budget, right? I still feel like they felt some type of loyalty to the sport because the sport of boxing helped propel HBO in its early days in the 70s, the 80s, 90s. HBO boxing was the big powerhouse on HBO. That's what attracted people to it. It helped with its popularity. So I think there was a little bit of that loyalty that they felt to it. And I don't know if you remember B, but back in the day, you remember WCW and wrestling?
Correct.
Right. So WCW is what helped TNT and TBS, get on the map. Wrestling did. Wrestling did that. So Ted Turner felt a loyalty to wrestling, right? Which is why he would give blank checks to Eric Bischoff, like sign whoever you want. Hulk Hogan wants money, give him money. Give the Macho Man money. Give Kevin Nash money. Give the Ultimate Warrior money. Whoever you want, give them all money, right? But what happened when the ratings were they were decreasing. Okay, they weren't. WWF was kicking their ass in the ratings now, and before you knew it, the ratings were hitting all-time lows. And when you hit that, plus the fact that Ted Turner, Time Warner had sold over to AOL, or they merged with AOL. AOL wanted nothing to do with wrestling. They saw no incentive to keep wrestling around. They felt no loyalty to wrestling. They didn't care about wrestling. They were worried about the bottom line. They were worried about making money, and they scrapped it. They got rid of it. They sold a whole lot. I don't know. I have no idea if HBO's going to do this, but at that time they sold their whole library to Vince McMahon. They wanted nothing to do with it. Okay, now I don't know if HBO's can end up selling their library to Showtime, or I have no idea. But it does remind me a lot of that story. It's very similar in that sense.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing today about that.
Right, it's just like you have to picture someone who's not loyal to this, whatever you want to call it, their kid, has to come out and be like, HBO is almost like that kid that's been living with their parents at age 40, and the parents are spending more money than the kids bringing in on them. You know what I mean? And I think they're seeing it as, it's time for this kid to get out. You know what I mean? It's time. That's how the executive saw it. Like, we're spending, even though the budget's been reduced, it's still like what, $30 million a year? That's still a lot of money. Like they can do a whole new series with that money and probably get better ratings.
Well, when you look at what other, Showtime's got like 100-something million budget. So it's like 120 million, I think Showtime's budget is.
For boxing? We would have to fact check that. I'm not sure what the budget is. But you could tell that they want to go on pay-per-view.
Look at the PBC. Let's look it up, because look what the PBC Showtime do.
And I wanted to talk about that. Okay, look.
Oh, I apologize. It's a 3-year agreement,
Okay.
and let me see how much it's for.
Oh, that was a multi-year agreement that they have with the PPC, but that's a mix of CBS and Showtime, right? And I believe,
Let me see.
but that's a little different than a yearly budget that they have, right? So
Correct. You're 100% correct.
but Showtime is rolling the dice right now, which is why Showtime wants to get back on pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Like that's how you make your money. You don't make money with you already have your. Let's say Showtime right now is sitting at, I think it's like 20. I haven't looked at the figures in a long time, so forgive me, but I believe they have 20 some million subscribers. Okay, it's at the end of the day, that money's coming in, right? The way you get your money back is by putting these fights on pay-per-view so they can start making profit out of this. Okay, it's either that or there has to be a huge spike in subscribers but it's hard to do that when fighters fight like once or twice a year. You know what I mean? It's hard to keep somebody around week after week when they could just cancel the thing after the fight. You know, it's just a hard thing to do. So you either have to have a good fight every other weekend or something to make sure they keep that subscription. But if it's for a fighter, then you got to do it on pay-per-view. That's where the money is.
So not to cut you off, but the Fox deal, Fox is giving, it says, I'm reading right here on Forbes website, Fox is giving Heyman an annual budget of $60 million.
Okay.
So Fox is getting $6. That's for Fox. Deal. I'm trying to find out the amount for Showtime.
So
none of these articles are giving me figures.
Let me say this. At the end of the day, if Showtime let me tell you something. Whoever negotiated that deal, all right, is hoping it pays off. If after this deal it doesn't pay off, if Showtime in the end either broke even or loses money out of this deal, then I know it's going to be controversial or whatnot, but then say goodbye to boxing on Showtime as well, right? Because the way these premium networks are going, okay, they're going that Netflix route. Netflix doesn't have boxing, okay? So that's the route they're going. So boxing has to produce. Boxing has to bring in ratings. People have to buy like this Wilder Fury fight. Okay, it cannot. Boxing needs to step its game up big time because say goodbye to a lot of these networks. If the Fox network doesn't work out, Heyman's already lost a couple networks. You know what I mean? And I'm not hating on Heyman. I think he's doing a lot. He's doing his best. He's doing his part. But in the end, people have to watch it, you know, and people are not watching boxing at the rate that they have to watch it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
We have Danny Man in the house. What's up, Danny Man?
Hey, what's going on, D-Star? What's going on, guys?
What's up?
What are your thoughts on this, man? What are your thoughts?
Man, you know, like the Beeb just said, I heard what he said earlier is that HBO boxing won't really be missed, and what it is that as a sports programming, you know, provider platform, I should say, you have to always remain objective, remain neutral in situations. Okay, I can give you an example like the NBA. You know, you have. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of favorite broadcast color commentators who favor certain teams, but yet they still have to remain neutral in situations if calls get missed or if there was a flagrant foul that was not, you know, that was blatantly missed or so, you know, I'm just giving you some examples. They do remain neutral in that situation, so that way the audience can always have their perception on how they see, you know, how they see the games being played or being officiated, whatnot. But when it came to HBO and their commentary, it seems to me they've always had this agenda. I'll give you an example. What really pissed me off about HBO, I never forgave him for this. When Zahir Rahim, a forgotten fighter, fought on the card where Eric Morales and Manny Pacquiao were co-headlining that card, and this was for the deal after they had to conclude their first fight, and they were trying to get a rematch, and they had the stipulation in their contracts in order for them to make the rematch possible, they had to get past their opponents in their interim fights. Aaron Morales had Zahir Rahim, and I forgot who Manny Pacquiao fought. But anyway, it was on the same card. Morales got humiliated by Zaire Rahim, got embarrassed, lost that fight. Okay, and on that middle of that broadcast, Jim Lampley and Emmanuel Stewart, God rest his soul, literally put this out there on a live broadcast. You know what? Zaire Rahim deserved to win, but I don't see nobody fighting Zaire Rahim. And Manny Pacquiao better not go near that guy. And this is what Jim Lampley and Emmanuel Stewart were saying. I'm like, on a live broadcast, like, what?
Yep. I remember that.
You
remember that, Beeb?
I actually don't, but again, I'm old. I don't have a good memory.
I mean, yeah. If you guys could look up that fight, Zaire Rahim versus Eric Morales, you can
believe it.
Yeah, and trust me, man, I was not happy about that. I was very pissed off at HBO for doing that because since they did that to Zaire Rahim, he never got a shot again after what he did to Eric Morales. Yeah, he got one shot against who was the guy that he fought before the WBO title. He lost that fight. Who did he fight? It wasn't it wasn't what you call it. It wasn't Freitas. It was somebody else. I think it was Freitas that he fought. Solano Freitas, and Freitas knocked him out. But anyways, ever since then he never got his opportunity after that fight with Morales. It ruined his career.
Here's another ridiculous quote. This was from Jim Lampley.
Yep.
When Andre Ward beat Sergey Kovalev the first time. He goes at the end of the fight. He goes, "American fighter in America with American judges." Enough said.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Remember that?
Right. Yeah,
remember that bullshit?
Yeah, I remember that bullshit.
And Andre Ward's supposed to be cool with them. He's a commentator for them.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny about that? I'm not sure Jim Lampley knows his history with Sergey Kovalev. I mean, many fights ago, didn't Sergey Kovalev get a gift decision over Darnell Boone, their first fight, where American judges was non-televised? I don't think he knew about that one. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's close.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like, go ahead, B. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. D-Style, I believe the Showtime annual budget is $60 million as well. I'm reading that right now, but it's a 3-year deal, so 60 for 3 years.
So it's
100. It's 100.
We're good
it's 180. It's 180 million. It's 180 million deal, I guess.
So we boxing has a 3-year lease. Like, we're good for 3 years.
Yeah. So when I said 120, I guess what I should have said is the combined 120 between PBC has 120 million $120 million. They got 120 million dollars between Fox and Showtime, basically 60 each. And you can compare that to Eddie Hearn's deal with DAZN, which is 125 million a year.
Well, that's, here's my thing, right? DAZN's not going to last. That's a prediction I made. It's that platform's not going to last. Like, no one was talking about Joshua Povetkin. It wasn't trending. It made no noise, and they were giving it away for free. Okay, I want people to understand this, right?
Well, the app sucks. I downloaded the app. It's horrible.
Well, it worked I gotta be fair. It worked for me, so I was able to watch the fight. I had no glitches or anything like that.
It never blurred on you. It never froze on you. It didn't buffer on you at all.
I will say this though. I'll be fair though. I'm being fair too, but I gotta agree with B because I downloaded myself. I have the one month free subscription, and it buffered on me a few times. But it was clear. I would give you that. It was clear.
And then during the Joshua fight, it would get blurry, and then it would get clear again.
Okay, like
Eric said the same thing too. Eric, my buddy over at Ringside Report, he said the same thing.
What do you watch it on? A laptop, phone?
I watch it on my tablet, and I Chromecasted it to my television.
Okay, gotcha. Well, how did you watch it, Dan?
I watched it on my phone. I was on the network. I was on the phone network. I was on the Wi-Fi network, which is always clear.
You got an iPhone? What do you got?
I have an Android.
Okay, you got an Android, right? I think first of all, if when you do kind of do it from a tablet and you Chromecast it to a TV, you're going to have those issues a lot more. And I don't know, maybe
not with ESPN Plus. Not with ESPN Plus.
Not with Showtime.
ESPN Plus was perfect.
I got you. Yeah. I have to. I'm just being honest, right? Like, I'm not gonna I'm just telling you my anecdotal I did. I actually called the fight live, and I had no issues with it.
That's cool. I mean,
that's
no problem.
one person.
You got,
you know what I mean?
you got lucky. You got lucky. Go on Twitter. Go on Twitter. A lot of people
Eddie
will tell
Hearn
you.
was like, yeah, make sure that guy has it. You know, but anyway, at the end of the day, it's even with that said, I was gonna say that. I mean, I don't want to watch like a special on Amir Khan, and it's a very UK centric app. All right.
Yeah.
So I don't see it lasting that long. I just don't. I think the zone is not going to make money off of this. Like, how are they going to make $120 million to break even and then make a huge profit off of it? And we're not just talking.
That's another thing too. I want to comment on that because their first card is going to be Chicago on October 10th, I believe. And if you look at that lineup in the main event, to me, right there, that's like, okay, this is not going to last long because one, you have Thomas versus Jesse Vargas as the main event for that card. And on the undercard, you have Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Thomas Adamek, a washed-up Thomas Adamek who's a very good cruiserweight and light heavyweight. He's not gonna last in that fight against Big Baby Miller. Then you have maybe an interesting fight, which is Arthur Berturbia versus Callum Johnson. And Callum Johnson, he's a UK British fighter who's stepping up on world level for the first time. But other than that, I mean, there's really nobody else. I mean, you do have, Danny Roman versus was Jamie McDonald's brother. I forgot his name, but it's just not a good card. And what really kind of makes things worse is that card is going to be featured on the same night as Conor McGregor versus Gaib, the UFC fight, the same night. And one of my buddies had
it's not going to last.
Eddie Hearn's another idiot when it comes to the counter programming. Like that is so arrogant. Like putting fights on when another big card is on.
Man,
how can they not get that? How can they not get that straight?
Let me tell you, Povetkin Joshua was for free. People will get it for free month, and it wasn't trending. It wasn't like nothing on social media. Okay,
well,
that's just the reality.
The thing is, it just wasn't really. It wasn't really marketed very well. There was just no marketing behind it.
My thing is, look, I bet you if the fight was on Showtime, it would have been trending. I'm not saying it would have been number one, but somewhere in the top 10, maybe. Okay.
Well, it's the time slot, though. The time slot is going to have a lot to do with that. You're trying to sell.
No, but here's the thing, babe. Like at the end of
American
the day, you look. Showtime has like 20 million something subscribers. If you have a fight in the daytime, at least 500 to 1,000 people are going to watch it.
I agree. It would have done better on Showtime compared to DAZN. But what I'm saying, ultimately, people watching UK cards, like Americans like to watch boxing at 8, 9, 10 o'clock. That's what we're accustomed to. We're not accustomed to watching fights. The average American, right?
True.
Like for instance, at a bar, people will have Showtime and they'll have the fights on. You know what I'm saying? Or people are at their house flipping through channels, like 9, 10 o'clock. They'll stumble across the fight.
Plus,
no one's looking for boxing at 5 o'clock, at 2:30 in the afternoon. That's when the card started, like 2:30. No one's looking for boxing at 2:30 in the afternoon. 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. It's a bad time slot. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's competing with college football. You're right, which is on top of that. And then it's just, just another, like you're asking people to download another. Like I'm tired of downloading. I don't know about you guys. I'm tired of downloading apps. Okay. So like download another app. Like, are you serious? Right.
Well, like I said, it just poorly rolled out, especially with his first card. If you look at that roster of fighters they have on Matchroom USA, I mean, who's the biggest name on that roster? Big Baby Miller or Danny Jacobs? That's it. That's all you have.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't know how much you're going to charge for this. People are not going to pay for it. It's not going to make money. The zone's going to cut it off. They might still stick around for cricket and soccer or something, but I don't think boxing is going to last. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it lasting that long either.
It's $10 a month. What'll probably happen is this deal that he has with Eddie Hearn in regards to the American broadcast, like they're having it available to American, right? After 2 years, the zone has the right to they can buy out. They can end the deal. It's an optional 2 years, and after that, it's a 2 year guarantee, I should say. Excuse me. And after that, all the other years are optional.
You know, why not do it fight per fight? Like, hey, we have a streaming app, all promoters.
Yeah, but he's bragging about how he's got this multi-year deal. What did he say? He has it for 6 years or whatever.
He has a $1 billion.
A $1 billion deal for, I think, what is it, 6 years or 8 years? I can't remember. It's like 6 or 8 years. But he's not telling people after 2 years they can get out. They can end it. They have the right to. They have right.
Either end it or renegotiate it, probably.
Right? I heard the rumor that Canelo Alvarez is looking to talk to them or something like that. Whatever. He's looking. He doesn't mind meeting with Eddie Hearn. But here's the problem with that.
The zone. This is the zone right now. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say though, the problem with that is that Eddie says that he's going to sign some big marquee fighters like Canelo Alvarez. He didn't say Canelo specifically, but here's the problem with that. Canelo Alvarez is a pay-per-view star. How's he going to make money on the back end on pay-per-view? Because the zone doesn't offer pay-per-view. And Richard Schaefer even pointed this out. He's like, how are these fighters going to make money on this? You can't.
Yeah, so Canelo sells a fight for $69.99. Half of that goes to him. Half of that goes to the that's a lot more than whatever the zone's going to give him.
Well, the fight's the Canelo Golovkin fight was $85.
$85. So you get half of that. That's the amount of money going to the event. You know what I mean? So
but here's the end game for every fighter who wants to become a star. Pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is the end game for every, like, the highest paid boxer and the highest paid athlete, you know, when it's a boxer, they become that because of pay-per-view. No one's the highest paid boxer. If you're the highest paid boxer in the sport, you're a pay-per-view fighter.
Well, here's my thing, though.
You can't be a superstar fighting on an app.
Here's what I want to say. All right. Look, here's my thing. That's a hilarious line, by the way. But,
I know.
Like you're an app fighter, right? But look. Look, you can't. The sport is the solution. Is not, you know, the zone just making it rain on Eddie Hearn is not automatically going to give us great fights on the zone, right? Sure, I'm sure some fighters are going to get paid, and good for them. I hope fighters get all the money they can get. Okay, but as far as long term, the zone's not going to last. Okay, the model they have isn't going to work. People just the time slots aren't good, and while I'm okay with it at times, there's just certain fights I don't want to watch on my tablet and my phone. Okay. At some point, I want to get together with my family and watch a fight, okay, especially if it's a big fight. And at that point, you want to watch it on your TV, and you want it to be dependable. You don't want it to be glitching and none of that. So that's where pay-per-view comes in, or if it's on a network where you can watch it, okay. So that's that. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I'm gonna go back a little bit, especially since Dan's on the line now, and I think a lot of people are missing this, and it's a point I'm making. And I want to caution everyone, okay? I co-sign everything said about HBO, okay? I was not a fan of Lampley, Merchant. Kellerman's okay. I don't hate him as much as Beeb, but he's all right. All right. I wasn't a big fan of their style. I think, and I agree that they did a lot of bad for the sport. But the good that they brought to the sport was money. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of fighters became millionaires because of HBO over the years, right? That money's gone. You know what I mean? Like, that money's not coming back to boxing. Okay, forget cutting the budget. It's gone, right? That's less money, okay, in that that boxing is enjoying, right? But here's what I want to say. My issue is, and I think it's going over people's heads, I think, is that the people that make this decision, they don't know anything about Lampley and Merch. They don't know anything about that. They just saw the numbers, they saw the metrics, and they said, this shit is costing us way too much money. We're losing money. We're going to get rid of it, right? That can cause a precedent, right? So everyone is paying attention to this, right? They're seeing that, look, damn, HBO got rid of boxing. And the reason they got rid of boxing, this is the new ownership now, okay? While I agree, everything we talked about led to the HBO losing money and losing ratings, you know, but the direct cost here is that they made a decision, they saw the numbers, and they said, okay, we're going to get rid of this shit, right? If boxing doesn't produce ratings, if people don't watch it, if people don't buy these pay-per-views moving forward, a lot of other networks will follow suit. Okay, after the 3 year, the same thing applies to Al Heyman. He's got a 3-year deal. Good, that's good for us as boxing fans. If the ratings don't produce, goodbye to boxing on network TV.
But the ratings have been getting better, and they have been producing. And I'm just gonna
compare it though. We have to compare it to what these fighters are getting paid though, right?
Well, that's another thing, D-Style. But you understand, you know, you guys all know that we're in a landscape, we're in a market where the casuals dominate the viewership, you know, as opposed to the UK. Because in the UK, as some people will call it, they have a grassroots audience over there. They'll support it no matter who's fighting on the boxing cards over there.
That's what boxing needs in the US, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't have it in the U.S. That's unfortunately, that's sad. We don't have it.
But
Ali days up to Ray Leonard and Mike Tyson. So we need somebody like I would have to say like a Deontay Wilder who could produce excitement, produce knockouts, produce action-packed fights. If you got a guy like that who could consistently do that and he's marketed properly, then the casuals will come back and that will bring more revenue back into the sport.
Let me put it this way, right? Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
If Beyonce was paid by ABC, right, to get like, let's say, what we consider good numbers, like 3 million views, right?
Right.
How much for those 3 million views? Like if Beyonce was paid what these fighters are paid, you really think ABC would be like, oh, this is totally worth it? Like we just forked out 8 figures for Beyonce to do a concert, and we got 3 million views.
Well, to her standards, that's probably pretty low.
This has been
these Showtime fighters, think about it now. They have a $60 million budget. These Showtime, how many fights are Showtime put on a year?
Well, we have to consider, I guess, the ones on CBS as well, right?
Well, they don't. CBS hasn't put on a fight in a long time, but these guys are only making one. Like Deontay Wilder's making $2 million a fight. Danny Garcia is making $1 million.
That's a lot of money, though. Like I know we throw that around, but in other words,
it's still not breaking the bank, though.
No. It's not about, like, I understand it's not Mayweather money. I get that, but it's not even Canelo money. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, so it's $2 million for Wilder, right? How much did Stavern make?
I think he made under $1 million.
Like 500,000. Like 500,000.
Okay, so $3 million, right?
Yeah. Like 500,000.
I mean, like I get what you're saying, right?
Are you talking about Ortiz, or are you talking about the Wilder Ortiz fight? Wilder
versus anyone else, right? I mean,
okay. Well,
not to mention if there's an undercard fight, they probably make 100,000 each. Not to mention that's money. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money for you paying them. And how many views do you would you say? Okay, they got to make, if they get 3 million people to watch, maybe that's worth it, right? At what point, like it's, we have to measure it in a way that makes sense, right? So I understand it's not breaking the bank. Let's say 2 million is not breaking the bank, right? But it could be breaking the bank though if this fight didn't make any profit, right? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like if you put this fight on, you paid them $3 million, but you didn't really see a spike in subscriptions. It didn't do over 1 million views.
But here's this is the thing people like keep saying, like, and I totally disagree with this. People are like, oh well, the more channels that get involved, the more promoters we have, the more ways we have to watch boxing, it's better for the sport. I disagree. I think you can oversaturate the market, and when you oversaturate the market, the quality of fights aren't always the greatest. And then you have fighter A can't fight fighter B because of network issues. you have conflicting networks.
So
You have guys like Errol Spence saying, "I can't fight Crawford because I'm not going to go fight on ESPN. He has to come fight on Fox or Showtime." So I don't necessarily think that's a plus, in my opinion.
I got you, but
and it could be for 1 minute. Let me finish. It could also be a deterrent for the Wilder Joshua fight because if Joshua is saying, "Oh, if American people want to see me fight Wilder, they're going to have to watch it on DAZN, and I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go fight on Showtime." That's a problem. So, like, that's the thing. Like, it's not always a good thing to have all of these different ways and these different, like, the more promoters, the more networks, and because then you have conflicts. That's a deterrent for the big fights happening.
Right.
And here's another thing too. Like, everyone's fucking talks about, how great the zone is and stuff like that, and how great that is for boxing. But if American people don't buy the app, they can't watch the fights. That's a problem. That's a problem.
All right.
Well, here's what I want. I want you guys' thoughts on this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the final season of Game of Thrones, right? So it looks like they're going to spend $15 million per episode when you put everything, what it costs to make it, the crew, the actors, everyone they have to pay, right? $15 million. Why do you think HBO is saying, you know what, yeah, I'll give the green light for $15 million per episode? Well, what? They know they're going to get something back for it, right? They're going to make a profit out of this. $15 million per episode. Now, Game of Thrones, I mean, I remember seeing figures like 20 million, 30 million. Like, the amount of people that would watch it is staggering to me, okay? And they're spending 15 million per episode. And this is the last season. They were spending far less than this in other seasons, right? So, and there is a spike in subscriptions. And not only that, people could go back and binge watch all the episodes, which they don't do with boxing, right? It's a sporting event. You watch it one time, you may go back and watch it on YouTube later, right? But the reality is, this is 15 million. They can easily get over 30 million viewers for this, right? Easily. So that tells me it's about 500,000 per million is what they're spending right here, all right? Boxers want to make 3 million, okay, and get 600,000, viewers on TV, right? That's why boxing is being eliminated from HBO, right? Showtime is seeing these figures too. If there's shows like Shameless and they have some other shows, they see what they spend and how much money they make, how much it spikes, how subscriptions rise and drop depending on, when the series ends. At the end of the day, they're able to see these figures.
Right.
And I hate to say this to boxing fans, but boxing is not producing.
Well, you know what, D-Star, I do agree with you. Agree with you to an extent, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. Because, the American boxing landscape has improved over the last 3 years after the Mayweather-Pacquiao debacle. It has improved, yes, but it's still got ways to go. And they have to come up with something. Like I said, I have to allude to this again. They need to get that one fighter, like a Mike Tyson-esque fighter, who doesn't have to always be controversial outside the ring, but also does a lot of exciting stuff in the ring. All right. And you guys know who I'm talking about. That's Deontay Wilder. You need a fighter like who can appeal to the casuals and lure them back into the product. That way they can be appealed to it, because they like to. You have to understand to deliver a product, to sell a product, you have to produce the results, and it has to produce the quality. And that's what Deontay does. Regardless of what you say about his resume, he produced the excitements in the fights. He gives you your money's worth. And that's what, I always stress that's why they need to put up some backing behind this guy. And another thing I have to say, too, is that Steven Espinoza has came out, and he did have commented about this whole situation with HBO. He did say, first of all, we're going to spend more money on boxing more than ever. So they're going to put more money, more money into the budget in the coming years, even though they already have the $120 million budget that's if you take 3 years on 3 years, $60 million each on each network, so under 80 million. Yeah, 180. So he did indicate that they're going to increase that budget over time. So I guess from that, by him saying that, he does see some estimates, that early estimates are somehow somewhere coming in that they're going to be making a profit off most of these fights, that the lineup that they're building right now. So He sees that he sees
that's what I
the
want,
trend.
yeah.
And then they can always pick up some of these other fighters that HBO, like they could pick up. Showtime
Absolutely.
could pick up. They could pick up Golovkin,
Go ahead.
and that can only
Yeah.
enhance their brand and their product.
Right.
You
I'll
know,
tell you what. If
Go back to Showtime because they got pay-per-view
Right.
over there. And Oscar
they
De La Hoya
could pick up They could pick up Kovalev. You know,
Not
they
the
can pick up. They can pick up Alvarez.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
Lee
hear you
Alvarez-
guys. Yeah.
No, a leader Alvarez, the light heavyweight one. They could pick up him.
Yeah, he fought on Showtime before. Yeah, he fought on Showtime before. So yeah. He took a one-off against Kovalev, so he'll definitely could go back there.
He can go
Obviously,
back. He's
so-
a champion now. You know.
Yeah.
So I think, look, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just not as optimistic. 3 years from now, I'm not that optimistic as to what is going to happen. Right.
Well,
Well,
like
if
I
Fox-
said, you got to get these fighters that deliver the results in the ring. You got to get those Deontay Wilder-esque type of fighters. You have to get them.
They must have seen something, Fox and Showtime, for them both to put up $60 million each. They're not stupid.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
true.
That's what you know. And not only this,
Mhm.
if Deontay Wilder becomes a pay-per-view star, then that's a wrap. Showtime's just going to soar. Showtime will soar. It's like with Mayweather. He'll never be a Mayweather, obviously, but if he can be half of what a Canelo is, that's a feather in their cap. I'm telling you that right now. And hopefully this Fury fight can be the beginning of some great things to come for Deontay Wilder, because that's what Showtime, and I've said this before, and I think Showtime's finally getting the message. They need to really stop pushing Deontay Wilder, and they need to really stop promoting him, and they need to really start investing in Deontay Wilder and doing everything they can to make him a star, because he fits the bill. He fits the bill. He could carry the sport, man. He can carry American boxing.
Yeah.
He beats Fury, and then he beats Fury, and then he beats Joshua on top of it. That's something great for the sport. He could become
Absolutely.
a star. And I think Dan, you alluded to that, I believe, just to add on to your point.
Right. Yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely,
guys,
absolutely.
I cut off for a moment.
Yeah. It's all good. That's all good. I was going to say, though, there are some signs of Deontay Wilder getting some type of investment behind him, because he's getting some endorsement deals already. With Everlast just signed him a deal. He's pairing, they gave him a deal. So there's some signs, there's some signs of him, getting some type of investment behind him. So
I know it's going to sound dramatic, but look, Wilder can be the guy that saves boxing. I know that sounds dramatic, right? But he can. He could be the guy that single-handedly saves the sport, at least in America. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard someone, like in my personal life, say, "Man, I saw Wilder fight. I'm never going to watch him again." I've never heard that. Right. Yeah. It's always, when is the guy going to fight again? You know what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Deets. I'm sorry, man.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's, if he can be successful in the U.S., that'll be huge. That'll be big for boxing, especially if he could, he's a heavyweight, and if he could bring back a lot of the fans that boxing lost, you never know, right? If we start seeing HBO make this announcement, Showtime is now making announcements, say, "Oh, don't worry, we got boxing," and you start seeing, because we're gonna tell, not right away, but in the next coming months, if we see a trend of rising subscriptions on Showtime and decreasing subscriptions on HBO, then that could be a good thing, right, in the long run. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. What were we going to say, Danny, man?
No, I was going to say, though, I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say, brother. He'll come back to me in a second. I was going to say, though, after the Stavern rematch, when he knocked out Stavern in the first round, which was something I didn't really expect. I thought he was going to get him out at least at 7th round in that rematch. But after that knockout, some of the casuals start to come back. They're like, "Hey, isn't that guy who knocked out that dude in the 1 round?" Some people have said that. And
right.
After the Ortiz fight, when Ortiz lost, I'm sure you guys watched Luis Ortiz when he came back and fought Robin Cajanu on the undercard of Garcia in Easter. When Ortiz's name was announced by the PA in the beginning, before the opening bell, the crowd cheered for Luis Ortiz. They gave him a standing ovation. I'm like, whoa, really?
Right.
They gave that man a standing ovation, and these are casuals, by the way. These ain't just hardcore fans. The casuals saw that fight, and they gave Ortiz such a standing ovation to the point that they knew who this guy was because he fought Deontay Wilder. He fought him and gave him a good fight. The tough fight almost knocked him out and gave an entertaining fight. So that just goes to show that Deontay Wilder is starting to, he's starting to get that appeal. He's starting to get that little casual appeal. I'm not saying he's all the way there. What I'm saying is there's a trend. He's starting to trend a bit. His popularity is growing a bit here in the United States. It's growing.
It is, yes.
It's growing. So, like I said, with Beeb's point, and like I said, I think he'll be the guy who could, and your point too, D-Saw, I think he'll be the guy who could help resurrect boxing in the U.S. from a casual standpoint. He could probably do it. I think he can. You just got to, we got to put faith in him. And I think Showtime believes that, and they're going to put their financial backing behind him.
HBO.
Well, Showtime, listen, for the next 3 years, they're all in. They want it to work, so we'll see. What were you going to say, Beep? Sorry.
HBO has 134 million subscribers worldwide and 54 million in the United States. So now I'm going to look up Showtime subscribers. That's so 54 people are subscribed to HBO in the United States. 54 million people. That's a lot.
It is 54. I thought it was like in the 30 millions, but that's probably through cable subscriptions.
Well, think about it now. Now you can get HBO on YouTube. You can get HBO on Amazon.
Yeah. You can,
you can get it on the
app on your phone.
Yep. You can get it on Sling TV. You can get it on Direct TV now. These cord cutters now they have cord cutters.
Yeah, you can actually get it a la carte. You don't have to get a TV provider to get HBO. You can get it by itself. So, so I mean, how many of those subscribers are like boxing fanatics? I mean, it should be at least about 3-4 million.
I am wondering how many of those are on their free month too, but that's another story. But I know Netflix does the same thing. There's like a certain percentage that are on that monthly, free month or whatever. So it kind of fluctuates, but nonetheless, the HBO is moving on from boxing. They're going that Netflix route. That's what they want to do. I think they feel like we got better original shows than Netflix. So that's the route they're going. Showtime, I think, wants to kind of be what HBO used to be, kind of. You know what I mean? So I don't know how it's going to work out for them, but I think it is. So, I mean, now if somebody wants boxing, it's one network. You know what I mean? So there you go. Epix tried the boxing for a little bit, didn't work out. If you guys remember the Klitschko's. You guys remember that?
Yeah, the Klitschko's. Yeah. Well, the
Hashtag Epix fail. Remember that?
Yeah, Epix. Yeah, didn't Epix have boxing one time when Sugar Ray Leonard was broadcasting? He's one of their broadcasters. Well, I think they had. I remember that. They were calling.
That's the zone, man. That's what's going to happen to the zone.
Yeah, but he's not a good commentator. I gotta keep it real. He's not a good commentator. He's kind of
he's all right.
Great fighter. No, Leonard's not a good commentator. No, he's not. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying he's horrible, but to me, he's not good.
He's not good. He's my favorite fighter of all time, but he's not a good commentator.
Right.
He's just too complimentary to every single fighter. Like, what do you think of that guy, Ray? Well, he's just great. He's great. Well, what do you mean he's great? Well, he's just great. I mean, he doesn't really tell you like what's going on.
I think I think Ray Leonard doesn't really pay attention to what's really going on in some cases because he has other business ventures outside of boxing that he focuses on.
You don't follow the sport that closely.
No, he doesn't. Let's be real. He doesn't. Nah, man. But anyhow, like I said, HBO, like I said, I'm not gonna cry spill milk over it especially the way they treated fighters over the years. And somebody had alluded to this point that maybe they made the grave mistake of backing Eastern European fighters, promoting them more than the American fighters, which kind of maybe perhaps turned off a lot of their American audience. That's probably one of their greatest mistakes.
I mean, the United States is a very, and we're not the only ones, but a very nationalistic country. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So like this, and then when everybody's like, oh, well, like I hear this a lot from people outside of the U.S. Like, well, you're being very hateful towards the Eastern Europeans and just a bunch of nationalists. But I mean, let's keep it real. Like all bullshit aside, okay. Like all the big fights in Mexico are Mexican fighters. Okay, all the big fights in Canada are Canadians.
Canadian fighters.
All the big fights in the UK are UK fighters. All the big fights in Germany are German fighters. Okay?
All the big fights in Japan are Japanese fighters.
Philippines, okay. The Philippines doesn't gather around in blocks and shit to watch like American fighters fight. Okay, like they're watching Manny Pacquiao and their fighters. Okay, that's Japanese, want to watch Japanese fighters, just in general. So when the United States boxing fan, gets scolded because they want to see, their stars be
pushed
or pushed, we're scolded about it. Why are we any different than any other country pushing their fighters?
Right. And another thing I want to say too, I think maybe because of the phenomenon of Manny Pacquiao being a foreign fighter, him being the draw that he was, an international global star, they thought HBO thought that, we could replicate that success with an Eastern European fighter who can produce not results in the ring, knockouts, success, kind of like Manny Pacquiao, but they may have overestimated that, because sometimes at some time the American audience is going to make some exceptions for certain foreign fighters, but if they constantly see that, they're like, no, wait a minute, hold up, pump your brakes. What about our fighters? How come they're not getting the type of promotion? How come they're not getting the type of recognition? Why aren't you guys promoting them? Why aren't they getting no shot? Why aren't they being revered? What's going on with that? You can only get away with it. Get away with it so far to a degree. So I mean, yeah, I agree. That's probably one of the greatest mistakes they made that probably led to their downfall. So I'm not going to say that's the only reason, but again, to your point, D-Style, there's many reasons. It's due to the fact that they're not producing the results. Their ratings has declined over the years, spending way too much money on the product where and they're slowly getting their return on investment, little to none. So that's probably what it was.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, positive thing is that we will no longer have this show, The Fight Game, right? That nobody watched. I don't know anyone that watched The Fight Game all the time. I don't know anyone.
I never.
Do you think Jim Lampley? Do you think Jim Lampley cried when they found out that The Fight Game was being canceled?
Yeah, he probably cried.
So he probably cried.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I mean, just some things about it. I will say this, right? The camera crew in HBO, top notch, and these are things a lot of people don't notice, right? But like whoever was doing the camera work for Epic should hire the dudes that just lost a job at HBO, okay? Because they were very good at certain things, right? The camera work on HBO was spot on, all right? It wasn't perfect. No one is, right?
Right.
When I was watching it, I don't know if you guys noticed it on Epic. Not Epic. Oh, Jesus. On DAZN.
Yeah.
Okay, they had some horrible angles for that Joshua Povetkin fight, right? Like I would be seeing the back of Joshua, and I only see like 1/3 of Povetkin, who's in front of Joshua, right? And then and vice versa, and I kept seeing the back of the ref, and I noticed this because I was doing a play-by-play live, and it was very. I hated the angle. It wasn't good at all. Okay, they wouldn't go to the hard camera when they had to. So there were certain things, and unfortunately, I do feel bad for people that lost their jobs because people lost their jobs here. You know what I mean? A lot of people got laid off. So, and I know Jim Lampley cried about that, right?
Yeah, Jim Lampley, and Harold Letterman. Those are the main two. They really needed to go. I'm sorry, they had to go. This narrative, this agenda they pushed over the years, trying to blacklist certain fighters like Zaire Rahim and Guillermo Rigondeaux after they beat Donaire, who's supposed to be their golden goose, after he humiliated him. They never forgave Rigondeaux for that. They blacklisted him, took him off the network, and I never forgave him for that. So I mean, it was a matter of time when this was going to happen, So I feel no remorse. So speaking of to some degree, but speaking of this,
I'm just saying that this cameraman, truck crew, whoever was doing the chef for the zone should all get fired, and they should get the HBO crew. because
Oh,
they're
yeah,
just better at
I
that.
agree with you. They can shoot better angles. They have better, better experience when it comes to videography. So, yeah, speaking of the zone, does anybody have the estimates, the viewership on the zone on the Josh Beckett fight?
No,
Because I haven't heard it.
it's
I
an
haven't saw
app.
any numbers on that.
It's an app, so there's no way to know. You know what I mean?
Well, do they
You
know
could
how many
check.
subscribers signed up though?
All you could do is check how many people downloaded it. How many people downloaded the app? Let me check.
I don't know.
Quick.
Yeah, you can check that.
I
please.
downloaded it 7 times.
Yeah, I downloaded it once.
It keeps shutting down on you and shit.
I'm just playing.
Well,
you know what though? To B's point, yeah, I was going to say to B's point, the zone is actually the reviews open in Canada is mixed to negative. Even the Canadians were complaining about the app buffering all the time. Not the quality's not that great. They're even complained about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, look, here's the thing: if they're going to compete with the likes of Showtime and especially Showtime has their own streaming app now, and ESPN with ESPN Plus, they need to get that fixed. Pronto, they need to get it fixed. So
well, it has on the Google Play Store. It's been downloaded 28,000. Let me start. No, that's how many reviews it has. 28,000. It has 28,492 reviews, and the average rating is a 3.5.
Yikes!
What's how many downloads does it have?
Show
because I can't find it.
3.5, 28. 1 million download, 1 million plus downloads it has right now.
That's it.
1 million?
1 million downloads.
No. Keep in mind, there's people who downloaded it for
on the Play Store.
That's still low.
Well,
that's low.
That's very low. What about the Apple Store?
Because keep in mind, not all those downloads are for boxing.
Yeah, that's
I have to open up my iPad for that.
Okay.
And people don't even want to download this on the Play Store for free, right?
Yeah, that's very low.
Million.
Yeah, that's very low for an app for a free trial. I mean, come on. Like again, it goes back to the fact there was no marketing behind this at all.
And think about it. Out of the 1 million downloads, only 28,000 people gave it a review.
Yeah,
that's bad. They got their work cut out. That's all I gotta say. They got their work cut out.
I do have one quick critique about Showtime boxing. I hate the fact that they go to the crowd and they keep showing other fighters in the crowd and all.
People.
Instead of like, I want to hear the corners. Like
you're not the only person to complain about that. A lot of people complain about that.
Well, the zone didn't do that. They didn't play the corners. They didn't hear they didn't play the audio of the corners like Joshua and Povetkin's corners.
I don't remember. No, not the zone. I'm talking about Showtime.
Oh, right? Showtime, yeah.
Like they're showing pictures of like Errol Spence laughing with Broner in the crowd. Like I don't care about that. Like
I don't give a damn about that. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like go back to the corner. I want to hear what the corner has to say. And someone might say, "Oh, well, they're trying to promote these guys to the casuals." Like no one's going to see Errol Spence, okay, between rounds and say, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna be a fan of that guy." It's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
His time will come where he fights, and that's when he'll make fans. But I want to hear what they're saying in the corners. That's always the fact that there's no commercial breaks on premium TV. The upside has always been, hey, I get to hear what's happening in the corner instead of it going to commercials. You know what I mean? So there's just certain things that show like I gotta give. Like I know RIP HBO boxing. I hated the commentators. I hated the agendas, but I love the camera work. And even though the Spanish commentator was not translating, that was another thing. The Spanish translator was horrible, right? but at the very least, they would show us the corners. You know what I mean? So that was always kind of cool, you know. So they did some innovative stuff as far as the sport goes. So. But they're gone now. It's a wrap. Max Kellerman will be all right. He's on ESPN, right? So
yeah, he'll be all right. He got his other job. He ain't gonna starve. He don't have to look for a job. But I
will say this: what do you guys think?
Is he gonna retire or is he gonna find another job? What do you think is gonna happen to Harold Letterman?
Who would hire Letterman?
I'm curious. Maybe the zone will do it. They'll probably hire him.
He should retire, man. I think he made his money over the years. It's time to retire.
Yeah, he's got to retire. He's been how long has he been with HBO? 38 plus years, maybe 30 years or so. Over 30 years he's been with them.
It's time to go. I don't think he can even see anymore. Well, what do you think, B? What should happen with Letterman?
Maybe he should do podcasts with us.
Yeah.
Hey, why not?
What about Lampley? You guys think prediction?
I can't stand Lampley.
I'm going to ask the crowd, the chat as well. By the way, take a moment, thumbs up that video. All right, thumbs it up. But here's the thing, really quick. Lampley, will someone else hire him? Yes or no, Beeb?
No.
Dan?
Nope.
Somebody's going to pick him up. I have a feeling. But somebody's going to pick him up. We're going to have to deal with his ass again.
Yeah, but what I heard though, he actually is going to stick around with HBO. They're going to have him doing special assignments or something like that. So that's what I heard.
Okay, then good. Keep him away from boxing.
Yeah, they're going to keep him away from boxing. They're going to have him doing special assignments.
Poor Roy.
What about Roy Jones?
Oh, man. Roy Jones, I think somebody's going to pick him up. If you ask me, somebody's going to pick him up.
Yeah, they have to pick him up, man. They have to.
You think somebody's going to pick up Roy Jones Jr.?
Yeah, he was at least.
He's got tax problems. He needs the money. Come on.
Yeah, he needs the money. Well, he can't fight no more.
If it keeps him off the ring, I'm all for it. But what I'm saying is someone else going to really I don't think Showtime doesn't really have room for him. Really, who's going to pick him up? DAZN?
Well, I mean, Paulie Malignaggi. I mean, depends on his contract and his terms that he has with Showtime. Paulie can.
They could stick him on Fox.
Yeah, they could put him on Fox, or if Paulie has if he has like a fight-by-fight basis deal with Showtime and CBS, they could seize that and just give Roy Jones a full-time job there, because Paulie is always traveling. He's doing commentary jobs with Sky Sports, which he has a contract deal with. Of course, he has a deal with CBS. Yeah, gotcha. So if he doesn't mind just giving up the slot to Roy Jones, and he could focus on just one commentary job, that'll be easier for him. So I'm sure that could happen. They can work that out.
So here's this one. What about Max Kellerman? Besides his ESPN gig, does he ever call another boxing fight ever again? Joe Habib, will he call another boxing fight?
Unfortunately, yes.
All right. What about you, Dan? Is he going to call another fight?
Yeah, he will. They're probably going to have him call fights on ESPN.
That's what I said. That's what I said. He'll be on ESPN.
Just curious, what is it that you dislike? I always thought he was at least the best on HBO.
Yeah, I thought Max Kellerman was pretty neutral.
Hey, listen, I met him. And took a picture with him, and I had a conversation with him. Okay. I don't dislike him as a person. I think he's over dramatic. And I don't like how he talks about these unwritten rules in boxing. Like, who would you rather be? That shit doesn't matter. Who would you rather be? Right. Like, you remember Meldrick Taylor, who was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez? Mm-hmm. He was winning. He was winning the fight. But round after round, he was getting beat up to the body. His face was puffing up like he was allergic to shellfish. That's how bad his face looked, right?
Per the 10-point must system, he was dominating, yes.
But he was winning the fight clearly. Right. Now, who would you rather be physically? Meldrick Taylor?
No.
Would you rather be Julio Cesar Chavez? It doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, who would you rather be? Yeah, was it Kellerman that started that?
I don't know about that. I think he did, but that's kind of a stupid question right there. Because first of all, I don't know why would you say that. If you're winning the fight, you're winning the fight. Of course, you're going to take some damages. Yeah, I mean, come on.
And that's why I don't like. And that's why.
Unfortunately, we lost Joe Habib there for a moment. He'll be back in a moment.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, you cut off for a moment when you were making a point about disliking the whole "who would you rather be."
Yeah. So
after your Meldrick Taylor point, and then you cut off.
Yeah. So that's why I don't like Max Kellerman's commentary. And then he'll sit there and say, like, Harold Letterman, how do you have it, Harold? And then he's like, oh, well, Harold's one of the best scorers, so if he has it that way, he's got to be like. It's like, come on.
Oh, come on. Max, seriously, he's the one who's always on Letterman's cards on almost every broadcast.
So let's. I'm gonna go over each HBO focus here, and just whatever comes to your guys' heads. Okay, we'll start with you first, Joe. The most ridiculous thing that. Oh, how about this? Max Kellerman's best moment and Max Kellerman's worst moment on HBO, Joe. What comes to mind?
Well, one thing that I'm going to say one of his worst moments is when he was interviewing Floyd Mayweather after the fight with Marquez. And then Shane Mosley, he brought Shane Mosley in, like he brought him in and waved him in. And then he starts crying that like they start arguing with each other. He's like, "Oh, Shane, please, Shane." Like he fucking instigated it. And then he's crying about like he's trying to downplay it like in the same breath. You know what I mean? So it's just like I thought that was just so corny.
Okay.
I thought that was so corny. What's his best?
He had some good moments.
I can't think of one.
Well, I mean, he had more good moments than he had bad moments.
And I hate the way.
So tell me something you liked about him. You there, Joe? I think HBO's trying to censor Joe Habib. I have no idea.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know what's going on. My internet. Let me see what's going on with my internet. Yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi. I don't know. He wears good tuxes. I mean, that's a good thing about him. He's a good dresser.
All right, Dan the man. Best moment, worst moment. Max Kellerman.
Well, I guess one of the best moments. I guess this is why I like about Max, because he's very neutral. He's going to call it for what it is. It's one of the moments in the last fight that the last HBO broadcast before the pay-per-view with Canelo and Golovkin 2. It was the Kovalev and Alvarez fight, the Superfly 3. But before that, the Kovalev and Alvarez fight, right? When Kovalev got knocked down twice, the second knockdown he suffered against Alvarez, Max Kellerman he automatically sensed Kovalev's his body language. He's like, you know what, guys, Kovalev is done. He is done. He can't fight no more. That's it. And then when the referee gave him a third chance to go against Alvarez, he said, you know what, this is ridiculous. Why is the referee allowing this to get him to get hurt like this? So I guess this was one of those moments where he knew, look, if a fighter is done, he's done. There's no point for him to continue. I know he's got heart, but he can't fight no more. You know, he's got pride, but he's done. He's out, you know? And then there was another moment where the Andre Ward Sergey Kovalev first fight, where he was constantly in odds with Harold Letterman's scorecard. And he's like, I don't know what fight you want. Kind of like, I could sense it. It's like, what fight are you watching, Harold? There's no way Kovalev won that round. Right. And you gave it to him. I think it was round 8 or round 9. I think it was that round 9 that clearly went to Andre Ward. And Harold Letterman scored it for Kovalev. And that's what Harold was like, okay, you know what? I don't know what fight you're watching, Harold, but we can't agree with the scorecard that you got here.
Yep.
So, but as far as his worst moments, like I said, I don't think he had too many, to be honest with you. I guess the only worst moment he had, I don't know, he didn't. I guess the only one, again, I have to go back to the Andre Ward Sergey Kovalev first fight when he interviewed Andre Ward after the fight. He said, hey, Andre, you look like you were surprised when you got the decision. Can you tell us about that? And Andre was pissed when he asked him that. He's like, I don't know why you asking me that for, Max. I don't know how you got that from. I'm like, okay, man, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to stir some controversy as if Ward got the gift decision by asking that question? And that's right there. That to me pissed me off when he asked him that. I was like, okay, nah, don't do that, bro. You trying to take away this fighter's his his.
How did you guys score the first Ward Kovalev fight? Did you have Ward winning?
I think I had a Ward by 1 round, something like that.
I had Ward by winning 1 round. Yeah, I had him win that fight. 114, 113.
Yeah.
I had Ward winning.
Yeah.
Now, here are my moments. So, to me, Max Kellerman's best moment, right, was actually early on when he first started on HBO. And it was after the De La Hoya versus Mayweather fight. It was a split decision for those that don't remember. And he just... And then Jim Lambley had said something about, MMA can't compare to this or something like that. And Max Kellerman kind of, sunned Jim Lampley and let him know that, hey, on the ground, like the jiu-jitsu stuff, they're pretty up par with boxers and skill-wise. And he also went ahead and kind of told everybody like that this fight was no split decision. Mayweather clearly won this fight. He gave his reasons why. And for some reason, Max Kellerman changed a little bit over the years, but I think that was a good moment of his. Worst moment for Max Kellerman, there's so many, but I never liked this whole about this guy's winning the story of the fight, but this guy's winning the fight. I've always hated that. It's very confusing to the audience, and it's also kind of like a slick way to play both sides. And that's another thing. He would just play both sides like a little too much. But I think that's my thing. Jim Lampley, here we go. Joe Habib, worst moment. I'm not even going to ask you for the best moment, but worst moment for Jim Lampley.
When he cried after Manny Pacquiao got knocked out.
Do you guys remember what he said?
It was disgraceful. I can't remember what he said, but I just remember he cried. It was disgusting.
Dan Man, worst Jim Lampley moment.
The worst one when he harassed Bob Bennett, the INSAC director, about the Guillermo Rigondeaux initial TKO decision over Moisés Flores. Yeah, you know that broadcast where Lampley and Kellerman, I think it was Kellerman and Lampley, they were all trying to run this little narrative about Rigondeaux being such a dirty fighter at the end of the bell. He should be disqualified for that. He should be disqualified. And he harassed Bob Bennett. He said, "Did you see what Rigondeaux did? Why is he not disqualified? Why does a TKO decision stands? This, that, and the third." I was like, "Oh, you know what, man? First of all, I don't know if Jim missed something. I mean, I don't know if he needs his eyes checked, because Moisés Flores was the one who hit Rigondeaux at the end of the bell first, and Rigondeaux retaliated. That's all he did. So why is it Moisés Flores get penalized? Why is it Jim Lampley mentioning that? Yeah. So and so that was one of the worst moments. And all the other worst moments is where he was crediting fighters for punches they didn't even land. Like one, for example, I have to go. This one, in my opinion, Kovalev and Ward won when at the end of the 10th round, Kovalev rolled off the punch of Sergey Kovalev's straight right hand off the ropes. And that's when Ward got off. He shook his head, and then he ducked Kovalev's lunging shots.
Right.
In the replay, Jim Lampley's like, before the replay, Jim Lampley's like, Kovalev with the hard right hand. And then Max is like, no. I think Ward rolled off that punch. I think he got away from that.
That's
and then
a good moment for Max.
Yeah, that was a good moment for Max. And then the replay showed, he said, "Okay, everybody, look at this hard right hand by Kovalev. Oop, okay, actually, he missed it. My fault. I gave him credit for a punch he didn't land."
Well, here's my worst moment. This is by far the worst moment in Jim Lampley's career, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Barrera is getting the best of Nassim Hamed, and for some strange reason, in the most Islamophobic rant I've ever heard, a broadcaster, right? He going about, he told us that Allah was on his side. Where's Allah now? And George Foreman actually cut him off and told him, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about." And by the tone of George Foreman's voice, I think he wanted to knock out Jim Lampley.
Oh okay. I remember that too.
Then he goes, "I don't think you like him very much, Jim." Because I like him just fine.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, you don't. You better watch what you say." And George put his ass in check. Yeah, you better watch what you say.
That was I mean, I can't. if somebody did that today, they're gone. Like, you know what I mean? But that was to inject his religion into it. I mean, that was just not good, right?
Yeah.
I understand that Barrera was whooping that ass, but you don't bring up the dude's religion.
I think what it was too. I think what it was is that I think Jim Lampley got offended by Hamed when he requested to have his religion tongue to be recited before the national anthem. He probably didn't like that, and that's when Hamed did that. He berated the crowd by doing that, and Lampley didn't like that. That's why he wanted to get back at Hamed for that. 2 rounds don't make it right, but yeah, I agree with you, style. That was probably the worst
Can you guys top that one? You got a better one?
He should have done that. But go ahead.
No, that's probably the worst one.
What about Joe? I remember after the Pacquiao, like a couple days after the Pacquiao Cotto fight. I don't know if you remember this conversation, babe, but we were talking, and I don't know if it was on one of the shows. I forget, but you go, man, Lampley. I mean, Cotto, like the first jab that Cotto landed, he made it sound like the greatest thing in the world. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, he landed a jab! Like it's just like, God damn.
And the guy will land like just a basic punch. What a right hand! Like he just screams. Like it's like I don't know. He's just ridiculous.
All right, let's see. Letterman. Worst Letterman moment, Joe.
Well, I'm gonna give Pacquiao that round. I mean, based off of facial damage when he was fighting Marquez, and he was bleeding. That just shows you Marquez's lack of defense.
What do you got? You got anything to top that then?
Harold Letterman. I gave that round to Sergey Kovalev, Andre Ward, because Ward keeps backing up. He keeps backing up. But then again, when Canelo Alvarez was backing up Gennady Golovkin, Harold, how'd you score that round? I'm going to give that round to Golovkin because he's actually throwing more shots out. I'm like, okay, that's it?
Yeah, inconsistencies, yeah.
Inconsistency, there you go. It's inconsistency when it comes to scoring fights. So let me get this straight. You will score fights for a fighter who's putting the pressure coming forward only if you like them. But if there's another fighter doing the same thing you don't like, you're going to give it around to the other fighter who's fighting off the back foot. Inconsistency. You can't do that. Go ahead.
You there, Joe? Joe Habib's Wi-Fi is getting out there. Let's give him a little bit. He's going to come back in a second here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I said Harold Letterman's 3 favorite fighters. Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Kovalev, and Manny Pacquiao.
Yep.
Very true, yeah. I mean,
very true.
I can't think of one moment, but his scoring was terrible. I do remember him going on a rant about Eddie Chambers. Like, he kept saying, I can't give this guy this round. I mean, I don't even know why they call him Fast Eddie Chambers. I can't give this guy this round. I think he was fighting Povetkin. I'm just thinking to myself, why are you stuck up on this dude's nickname? Like,
you talking about? I think you talking about Klitschko. Was it Klitschko or Povetkin? You think it was one of those fights?
I think it was Povetkin.
And then you know what aggravates me about him too? A guy will be losing bad. A guy will be losing badly. He'll be getting beat up, and then he goes, "Oh, I don't know why the guy just doesn't throw punches. He's got to do something. How can he do something? He's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, he's getting the whip out of him. He can't do anything about it."
I forgot to say this about Lampley, all right? But just to go back to him really quick, one thing I hated about him is he always had to, like, put salt on the wound whenever, like, when a fighter would get knocked out, right? Like, he just embarrassed him. He made him.
Oh, I hated that.
That wasn't cool. I didn't like the way he did that, to be honest with you. Here's a big kahuna, man. Larry Merchant. Babe, worst Larry Merchant moment.
Oh, man.
Well,
I'm sorry.
2 or 3, because I know that there's a whole list.
During the end. Oh, when he interviewed Hopkins. And he's sitting there berating Hopkins for fighting. Who did he fight?
Mariah Carr. Yeah, Mariah Carr.
Yeah. He knocked him out. Yeah, he knocked him out one round.
I know
or
what
whatever.
you're talking about. Yeah.
He goes, "Do you think that people actually pay to see this? They want to see something like this?
Like ask your network Merchant."
It's like what an embarrassment. What an embarrassment that interview was. It was horrible.
That was. First of all, Larry didn't understand. Bernard Tone's like, well, first of all, Larry, the WBC mandated me to fight this guy, okay? If I didn't fight him, they were going to strip me from my title. So the hell with you. and anybody else who got a problem with me handling my business. I'm going to keep my titles, okay? If they're going to ask me to fight somebody and mandate me to fight somebody to keep my title, I'm going to do it. So you could, he told me, the hell off with you, what you think about who I fought and how I fought this guy. That's not your problem. That's my problem. Let me do the fighting.
That was around the time that Larry was kind of building up an ego, huh? Like that's kind of where it was starting.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you ask me, oh man, let me see. I think the moment where let me see, where he berated Lennox Lewis after the Klitschko fight. He said, "Are you gonna give him credit now, Lennox?" And Lennox like, "What do you mean? Why you want me to give him credit for? What are you talking about?" Yeah, he hung in there. Yeah, he did what he had to do. He's like, no. I don't want you to say that. I want you to tell him that he's a good fighter. And Lennox like, why the fuck you gonna tell me what I need to say about this guy? He hung in there against me. He did okay. What else? The man was gonna get stopped anyway. What do you want me to say, Larry? He said, I want you to give him credit. You said he had no skill set. What do you say now? You was losing the fight. He said, yeah, whatever, Larry. But you see the state of his face? Do you see what I did to his face? Did you see it?
Yeah.
No way he was going to finish that fight, Larry. So what the hell are you talking about? He's like, well, he redeemed his name. He redeemed himself. This, that, and the third. You need to give him credit. He said, yeah, I do give him credit, Larry. He's in there with me right now. You saw what the end result, what happened to him when he was in the ring with me. Okay?
What do you want him to do? Like suck his dick in the ring? Like what? I mean, goddamn. Larry Merchant.
Literally, Larry Merchant was trying to make that whole event about Klitschko, not Lennox Lewis. He was trying to find a way to undermine Lennox Lewis TKO victory of Vitali.
But by the way, that's when the whole. I mean, I might be wrong, but that's one of the first times I heard the whole. Lennox Lewis might have won the fight, but Klitschko won the event.
Yeah, I'm like, what kind? He fucking lost. No disrespect. He lost the fight. He got his ass busted up in the face with uppercuts. Had above his eye and below his eye, and a busted nose and a busted mouth. Well, I mean, come on. He wasn't going to finish the fight. It was a long way to go. He wasn't going to survive the next 6 rounds. He wasn't going to do it. No way.
Do you remember?
Even Jordan said that.
Do you remember too? Do you remember when he did this too? When Oscar De La Hoya was coming out to the mariachi music, and he said, "This music sucks." Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
Yeah, De La Hoya was pissed about that. De La Hoya wanted him to be fired. He went to the HBO executives and got mad. He's like, "Nah, if you guys want me to continue to fight on your network, you got to get rid of Merchant." This is the same shit that what Mike Tyson wanted. Made the same complaint too.
I don't even know how I didn't know about this. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, man. Look, man. I remember it was Morales versus Barrera, either 3 or 2. I forget which one it was, right? But Morales is walking out to the ring, and here's Larry like telling the whole story, right? These two guys, it's something about the fact that they're both from Mexico that they really don't like each other. But you know how they are. They're always beefing with one another. Like, I could fight better than you. I can eat more chili than you. I can he just went on like all these stereotypical things. But that line always stuck out to me. Like, Mexicans always talk about who can eat more chili than who, right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So here's the thing. Larry Merchant thought he can get away with his racial stereotypical comments as long as he did. And, he was one of the reasons why Tyson and King left HBO to go over to Showtime. And he was also the reason why Floyd Mayweather left to go to Showtime. It was because Larry Merchant. They couldn't stand him. They wanted him gone. They complained
I think Larry Merchant's the reason he's dead. I think that's why boxing no longer on HBO.
Yeah, I think he's the main reason why it's dead, because of his stereotypical comments. And George Foreman didn't like his ass either. George and Roy didn't like him. Lennox didn't like him. So it's like,
you guys remember when Roy Jones in the first it was Morales versus Pacquiao, right? It's in the middle of the fight. Morales getting the best of Pacquiao, right? Yeah. And Roy's talking about how, I think he's in his head. I think he got in his head in the press conference. He's getting the best of him right here. And Larry's like, oh, no, he's not, Roy. And then Roy's like, hey, I've been in the ring. Have you been in the ring? He pulled out, I was a boxer card. You know, and Larry's like, well, you don't have to pull rank, Roy. Right?
Yeah.
He always had to get the last word, which was annoying. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny too because he had also Larry Merchant was like, well, I think it was one of those moments where he had oh, yeah, it was the Kelly Pavlik and Bernard Hopkins fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so mad how Kelly Pavlik was getting beat because Kelly Pavlik was his fighter. That was his guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was so mad how Kelly Pavlik was getting beat up the way he did. He was like, oh, he's getting beat up because he had to go up extra weight to fight Hopkins, this, that, and the third. I'm like, wait a minute, Larry.
Yep.
You didn't say that when that fight was signed. You thought Kelly Pavlik was going to steamroll Hopkins. Hopkins was coming off, what, a 1 year, 2 year layoff? Huh?
Then at the end of the fight, he goes, let's remember that Pavlik is still the middleweight.
Yeah.
And he can go back and his middleweight title.
You know, because Manuel Stewart, they were kind of arguing about this in the middle of the broadcast, and Manuel Stewart, God rest his soul, said, hey, look, Kelly doesn't do well with technical fighters. And he was telling Larry that. He said, nah. It's just him going up the extra weight and getting this fight for a payday. That's all. He's like, no, Larry, no. He cannot fight well against technical fighters. I've been telling you that. That's the problem. It doesn't matter who you put in there. If you fight a guy who's very technical, who can move, who's very slick, they're going to beat up on Pat. I seen him in the gym, Larry. I seen what he could do in the gym. I know what his style is and what styles mesh with him. This guy, he's like, the fact is that they took this fight for payday. That's all they did. It didn't really work well for. Yeah, he was mad how Kelly Pavlik was getting beat up by Hopkins because Larry Merchant doesn't like Bernard Hopkins either, and he thought Pavlik was going to steamroll the guy. And then when he was proven to be wrong, he was just so upset about that. He was just trying to find a way to undermine what he was doing to Pavlik.
Very true. I didn't like how Larry, and it wasn't just Larry, by the way. Jim Lambley's he's responsible for this. And I could see why especially a lot of hardcore boxing fans are saying, you know what, I'm glad this shit's done. Because HBO, Larry Merchant, and Lampley, the two main culprits here, okay, were responsible for putting things in people's heads that just weren't true. Okay.
Yep.
Whether they meant good or not, like one thing Larry would say about Chavez in the documentaries was, "Oh, Chavez Senior was he was a fighter that would take 3 to land 1." And that's not. He fought like that in one fight, against a dude that has probably the fastest hands I've ever seen in the history of the sport.
Correct. Like, Belgian Taylor. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the idea that Chavez was a guy, and he would say this in a way that we should celebrate him for it. Like, oh, he would take 2 to land 1. That wasn't his style. That's just not true. Okay, and then of course you have Lambley, always crying, by the way, which I hated. Okay, Jim Lambley actually cried. If you guys remember remember the Moore and the Moore and Foreman documentary.
Yeah,
where he's talking about how, I'm not saying it's not a cool thing that he told him this, but he's like, oh, Foreman told me, he was going to set him up and knock him out late, or whatever, something like that. But he said that, he goes, wow, and he starts crying. But anyway, but back to my point. Things that would say, one, Larry Merchant, right? Mayweather, in the middle of Mayweather fights, always, man, right? Oh, this is not the art of war. This is the art of self-defense. And just like those comments that he would make, that I just didn't like. You know what I mean? And
sometimes I wish Larry Merchant got his ass in the square circle and see what it's like to fight in a prize fighting event. Like, you go in there and you show us how it could be done. It's easy for you to sit there.
We've always had fighters that fight on the move and all that, but once HBO really got involved with the sport, they try to make the narrative that this is the way fighters should fight. They should just go at each other and rah, and until we see blood everywhere and gaudy Ward style, and that's the type of stuff they celebrated, and they made it clear. They make these things clear. Like, even when I remember when Hopkins, remember the fight with Hopkins Pascal?
Yeah.
So Jim Lampley wouldn't shut up about the whole this is an exciting fight, but I don't think Hopkins is trying to make it exciting. I think he's just old. Like, it's just like, what's the point in that? Like, I still remember the second Barrera Morales fight, which is a classic. It's a great boxing fight. And Jim Lampley couldn't shut up. Like he said like 4 or 5 times throughout the fight. Like, it's not as good as the first one, but I'll take it. Like, just stuff like that. Like, who says that? You know, I just hated that. Put that narrative out there, and it got on my nerves.
Well, it is what it is, man. Hey, listen, guys, I got to get going, though. I was good talking to you guys, man.
Yeah,
all right?
All of us. You and me both and 3.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. You guys take care, baby.
We're gonna wrap this up. Joe, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, HBO, good riddance.
Damn. Like, no mercy.
Nothing.
No mercy. And to be honest, they were kind of irrelevant for the last 2 years, if we're honest. Right? Yeah. So, what are we going to do? So, that's it for HBO. Love it. Like it. They're gone. All right. Tell me, what do you guys think? I know I wasn't we're kind of engaged in conversation. It wasn't quite a Q&A or anything, but I'll definitely read the comments once I get this posted. I always check them out on archive. All right. Tell me what you guys think, and we're out of here. Peace.